Greetings everyone and welcome. It's not Sunday, but it is time for another episode of the Captain's Table. Now, the reason that this episode is delayed by a day was previously and briefly mentioned in last week's episode of the Captain's Table. Mainly, that I was bird sitting for my father. And my dad's got a bird that's not too far off from my own. It is a species of conure, but it's a little bit bigger and significantly louder when it calls out. And unfortunately, no amount of covering or snuggling could prevent it from being particularly noisy in pretty much every video that I attempted to record over the week. So, basically gave up trying right at the beginning of the week and just decided I was going to have a little bit of a summer break. Which was a good thing, because it's the summer, World of Warships, full of very, very bad teams right now, and I had the pirate event to think about for this recent weekend. Now, if you're confused as to what the pirate event was, but you played World of Warships, you might have seen it to some degree. There were a lot of players who had the player name pirate crew member and then a number. Those guys were pretty easy to spot, pretty easy to figure out that those were the pirate crews for this event. Now, if you sunk them, you got something like 25 economic flags from pretty much all of the flags that they have in the game, as well as 250 gold doubloons. However, there were also pirate captains. Now, the captains were not so easy to identify compared to the crew member counterparts. And the reason for that is because instead of being labeled something like Pirate Captain, followed by a name, they were instead called Captain blank blank. And you can understand why that could be a bit of a problem for just the standard players. Especially if you follow my World of Warships stuff, you'll know that I have Captain right in my standard name. So to add another thing to it, and basically give a demo account, a temp account for this event, with that name, ultimately caused some confusion. Because we weren't labeled specially or different colored, so people could identify us as being the pirate captains. We didn't have pirate in our name, and other than us at the very beginning of the battle putting out that almost Spamish message, well, you can see where some confusion could be drawn out. That being said, though, the event went pretty well. There was some pretty good positive feedback, and for the most part, I had a reasonable amount of fun. Partly because I didn't have to worry about things like my kill-death ratio. I didn't have to worry about my win ratio because I wasn't playing on my normal account. Now, that's not to say that I endeavored specifically to go and get myself killed so that I could just play a bunch of different battles. No, in fact, a little bit of the opposite. I did try and play, but I was playing with a bit of a handicap. Firstly, I was playing with the handicap that I could only have a 10-point captain on all of my ships. That means no manual secondaries and concealment expert on ships like the Massachusetts. That also means limiting the range of those secondaries by not being able to take something like AFT as a captain skill, an alternative to concealment expert. So there were some limitations with that. Still though, it was an opportunity for me to go out and play some ships that maybe I don't have. For instance, I played both of the Italian battleships. And surprisingly enough, I found that I actually liked both of the Italian battleships. I didn't think that I would, but I found them to be oddly enjoyable. Kind of tough nuggets to crack, reasonable gun penetration and dispersion. Something that I might actually consider either asking for in the future or buying myself one of these ships at some point. Also played some other ships that I just don't have unlocked or had no strong desire to play. I ultimately decided I was going to try and play the Tier 10 Russian destroyer Grozovoy. Now, I don't like Russian destroyers. I don't like playing against them, and I just, in general, don't like the way they look. The Grozovoy, however, is not that terrible to look at, and given what it has available to it, 10-kilometer torpedoes that go pretty quickly and do a reasonable amount of damage, the fact that it has a speed boost, a smoke generator, a heal, and defensive fire, talk about Russian bias, made it somewhat appealing. I think if I had a 19-point captain to play with on that ship, I probably would have had a bit of a better time, mainly so that I could have opted to take something like survivability expert and superintendent and torpedo reload expert, the 3 tier 3 skills that I absolutely must have. And if you're playing a destroyer, especially a US destroyer, or if you're playing arguably any destroyer, having those 3 skills is pretty much a must in my opinion for destroyer gameplay. You gotta have that superintendent. You want to have an extra smoke screen. If you're in a Russian destroyer like the Khabarovsk or the Grozovoy, you want to have that extra heal as well. If you're in a US destroyer, you're going to want to have that extra defensive fire consumable, although I don't know why you would take it, honestly. You shouldn't even turn your anti-aircraft guns on. Or, in my case, have that extra speed boost so that you can get around the battlefield, especially at the end of the game, to either try and outrun a ship that's trying to shoot you and win the game, or so that you can go and chase down that last ship so that you can win the game. You've got to have torpedo reload expert on anything that has torpedoes that are usable. Now, on the Khabarovsk, not so much given the range and damage of those torps. On something like the Grozovoy, though, the torpedo reload expert is actually a pretty reasonable option, though the torpedo reload not anywhere close to what you're going to get on something like the Z-52, the Gearing, the Yu-Yang, or the Fletcher. You can still get it down, though, which is always a nice thing. And then survivability expert, you do need those extra points of health. I can't tell you the number of Fletchers that I've run into that clearly do not have it. They didn't think it was important, so they've only got 17,000 something health. And here I'm sitting at something like 21,000 health. So I have more health than them, I'm more accurate in them, I'm just going to go ahead and wail onto them, and I'm going to come out on top most of the time, usually losing only half of my health comparatively to them losing all of their health. So I did get to play some ships that I would otherwise not have gotten to play. And I'll tell you what, though, surprisingly enough, I had some pretty reasonable battles in some of these ships. During one of the waves, it was Tier 4 for a period of, I think, 2 or 3 hours that we had to play. And that Tier 4 requirement limited, obviously, what I could play. Lots of Tier 4s to choose from, though, including several premiums. But I decided I was going to go ahead and I was going to play the Wyoming. Now, the Wyoming, Tier 4 US battleship, fully upgraded, pretty decent anti-aircraft for Tier 4. Also known as the Shotgun of the Seas. It's got 12-inch guns. Yes, they're only 12 inches, they're not 14s. But she's got 12 of them. And because of the length of the ship, she's surprisingly got a good clustering. And I will tell you what, I played a grand total of 3 games in the Wyoming for this event. With a 10-point captain. Only a 10-point captain. And I averaged something like 3 kills per battle, and I didn't die. Nobody claimed my 500 doubloons and 50 economic flags. Nobody got mine when I was in the Wyoming. So, it just proves that I know how the ships play, and I can play them well, which was fun. I also did have a battle in the Massachusetts where I ultimately had to carry the team hard. And I did. I actually managed to carry the team hard. I secured not only a Confederate and a high caliber, but a Kraken Unleashed, and I think I secured a Dreadnought to go with it. On top of all of that, 3 close quarter experts in a single game on that ship alone. Oh man, that was interesting. Almost 4 close quarters experts. But again, going back into the pirate captain versus pirate crew member, the captain's name's not as familiar, especially even to some of the crew members. And as a result, while it was a stipulated rule that pirate captains and crew members should not engage another pirate account unless necessary to win the game, as in, you know, they're basically the only 2 people that they can shoot at, I did have a pirate crew member actually actively torpedo me. And I was thinking I didn't have to worry about him torpedoing me until his torpedoes went right into my broadside. So at that point, this is just retaliation. I flagged him for secondaries, blapped him hard, and let my secondaries finish him off. Then promptly informed him that he violated the rule by shooting at me. That was the battle I went on to carry the team hard and win with a Kraken. I did have another battle where I was in the Torpets, and was accused by somebody actually on the enemy team, which had a pirate crew account, of falsely representing myself as part of this event. Because, again, I didn't have pirate in the name of my captain. So it was just Captain Drunken Sailor. This was interesting in that respect. I think he threatened to report me, or wanted people to report me for falsely presenting myself, which would have actually been really, really funny to see that support ticket come back and be like, bro, no, that was a demo account that was an event account for this, so, you know, shove off. I did have at least one person on my team accuse me of being the worst Tirpitz player he ever saw. The worst battleship player he ever saw, quite potentially. But I did have fun in that game because I was able to actually roll around a corner, torpedo a Baltimore at point blank range, which was always enjoyable, finish off a lot of various ships. I think ultimately I got 3, maybe 4 kills in that game. Didn't quite finish off the Kagero that ultimately did end up finishing myself off in that battle. But what was actually really impressive about it was we had an Omnivoy go on to stand alone against 5 enemy ships with about 3.5 minutes left in the game. He sank one of them. He sank the battleship. There were 4 enemies left. Our team had 2 of the caps. The enemy team had just captured back 2 of the caps, but they, for a while there, didn't have any caps. So our team, which had held 2 to 3 of the caps most of the game, had all of the points. And literally all this Omnivoy had to do to win was pretty much run away. Now, I didn't stick around in the battle because I have never seen a Russian destroyer player actually play that way, realizing, oh, all I have to do is basically run away, we'll win on points. Like, there's no way the enemy team can catch us even if they took all 4 caps, given the time frame. Given the time frame, we still have 2 of the caps, and we're in the 930 plus point range. I've never seen a Russian destroyer captain actually say, no, I'm just going to stay off detectability and run away. No, they always use their guns. They always open up. They always try to do something. This guy didn't do that, apparently, because when I got back out of another battle, I saw that it was a victory in that ship, went and looked at it, and sure enough, that guy earned his solo warrior. Kind of wish I had stuck around for that. That would have made an excellent replay if I had. Incidentally, though, the envoy, who got his solo warrior, was not the top of the team for XP earned. It was me in the Turpits. Which I found quite humorous. Anyway, that's what's been going on with me this last week. Work's been pretty quiet and not too much going on there, which has been fortunate. Not much planned for the next week. I am going to try and, now that I'm not bird sitting, a very loud and obnoxious bird, get back with the videos and do a little bit of streaming for you. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.